Okay. Hey everybody, good morning. Crypto Mentor 99 here. It's the morning for me of June the 20th, and I have the honor and privilege of having Maya Middlemiss, Managing Director of BlockSparks. And Maya, thanks for being with me today here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
So during the pre-interview, I said I got to tell everybody how we kind of met online, which always sounds kind of weird to me after all these years of having the internet and stuff. So there's an ICO that I'm invested in called Local Coin Swap, and they did a question and answer. I don't know. Everything seems like yesterday to me, a week, 10 days ago. And I was watching it, and there was a lady which ended up to be Maya on the right side of my screen. I'm like, I wonder who that lady is, because I follow Local Coin Swap. So during the question and answer, we're kind of sending Twitter comments or however you say that back and forth. I'm like, hey, I got to interview you. So with that long introduction, again, thanks for taking the time out, and I want to tell the world about you and BlockSparks.
Well, isn't that lovely? It's a really kind thing for you to do that because what we're all about at BlockSparks is sharing the story. That's how I became involved with Local Coin Swap when they needed a writer and a blogger. I love writing for Local Coin Swap because they let me write about anything I like on their blog. Sometimes I write about them and what they're doing and the work they're doing, but they're actually really interested when I go to them with an idea and say, I've got an idea for an off-the-wall post about this, and more of an opinion or a history or something, and they say, yeah, bring it on, write it, because we'd like that.
Yeah.
So they're doing such interesting work in terms of the exchange they're building and being completely decentralized and giving away the profits. But I think what they want from the blog is something that speaks to their values and what they're trying to create in the world and why they believe in decentralization and distribution of ownership. So they're really, really lovely guys, and they're one of our first clients at BlockSparks. We've been with them from the pre-sale stage, and now we're post-ICO, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great, Maya. So again, we talked about this during the pre-interview. I've got your website printed in front of me, and I want to brag on you. Okay, it says new technology need new storytellers. Okay, and I'm a storyteller, so I love it in my little part of the world. Blockchain technologies are at the heart of some of the most exciting global innovations, truly changing the way the world works. But not every communications agency, and this is where what you guys are good at, understands the disruptive potential and technologies underpinning the blockchain revolution. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of see you as coming along, not just ICOs and helping them, if we could boil it down, but you do more than this, help tell their story, right?
Absolutely. I mean, all these amazing solutions that are coming to the world now through ICOs, they're only going to gain traction and have the effect that they deserve if they manage to bring in people who are completely new to this. It's all very well them all recruiting each other's Telegram groups and engaging people who are already in the space and understand about investing. But what we try to do at BlockSparks is extend that reach out to people who can benefit from that solution, whatever it is. And there's some incredible work going on. People who are going to fix everything that's wrong with the world and disrupt so many different sectors. So we try and help them tell their story beyond the immediate engaged crypto community, going out to more traditional forms of social media and content marketing, article marketing, PR, trying to get their story out. The people who might want to invest, people who might ultimately want to be their customers and their ambassadors and evangelists down the line once they're launched.
Right, and we talked about this in the pre-interview a little bit, or maybe I thought that we did. It's it's one thing to be like a communications agency, but it's another thing to be like BlockSparks, to be a good storyteller, but have an understanding, for lack of a better word, of the cryptocurrency space, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I understand it in the way that a developer does.
You bet. Right.
When those guys at Local CoinSwap get talking in their Slack channel about what they're actually building, it's like, whoa, okay. That's fine though, because we need those people to do that amazing work, and then we need people like you and me to translate that to the rest of the world. I feel that very strongly. There will always be a need for people to work on that level, but it's one that, there are some clients that we work for who maybe their first language isn't English, or maybe their first language is code, and even though they know what they're talking about, I have to really break it down with them and say, whoa, okay, how are we going to chunk this out and make it meaningful? I love coming up with interesting analogies and metaphors for describing the kind of products that they're building, and the coins and the tools and the way things can be tokenized, and that can change the way the world works. But you have to start with the ideas, and if we didn't have these guys doing this amazing work, we wouldn't have the story to tell.
Now, I just thought about this as you were talking. Are you just working with English-speaking people or companies or projects? Is it just...
It's a really interesting question, because at the moment, this is a global movement, and most of the teams we're working with are all over the place. Few in the States, as it turns out, because the regulatory framework makes that very difficult. But we're working with people from the US, but they're based out of Hong Kong or wherever. So far, a lot of the work we do is English. I can't write effectively in any other language, but I know that, for example, local CoinSwap, they've really engaged their communities as part of their bounty program to create translated materials in loads of different languages. And I think it's very short-sighted to say that the language of the internet is English. And obviously, that can be a conflict for me, because I want to control the messaging for clients that we're working on, and to trust a translator, particularly someone who's volunteering, can be a bit difficult to let go of that control when I've no idea what they're putting out there. But I think these things have to come from the grassroots a bit as well, and if people want to translate stuff, then that's great. All it does is amplify the message, get the word out there.
Okay. So if you contact someone or they contact you, what should they be thinking when we're saying during this interview that BlockSparks helps them tell their story? Should they be thinking white papers? Should they be thinking social media? Should they be thinking email marketing? Like, what should someone be thinking, Maya, when they think of you guys?
Well, we can do all of that, and it really depends where they are in their cycle of development, because first thing people have to pin down to get their seed funding, to really pull their story together. And sometimes, I've done a lot of work on white paper. Sometimes it's a very light copy edit that's needed just to polish it up a little bit. Other times people say, well, we've got a white paper, but it's not quite right, and it's actually something that 7 different people have worked on, and it needs a complete restructuring. But the ideas are all there, and so long as the ideas are there, or even if they're in the founders' heads and I can interview them and pull them out and pin it down, then we can put a good white paper together, and that really is the first place to start to get that right.
Wow.
After that, we look at building communities around that, going out to find people who are going to be interested in coming on board once they reach the token sales stage. You can't market into a vacuum, so we need to build that community, and an email list is obviously an important part of that. We've had lots of changes in the law around that and opting people in, so it's very important that that's done properly. You can't just bring you a list from your last project or whatever and just think, I'm going to market to them. But if we set it up correctly from the outset, then we can make sure that things are compliant and that we're not annoying people. People have different ways of wanting to be communicated with, and different kinds of information work better in different contexts. People want certain things via email, which is very different to what you put in a tweet. But we have specialists within the team who are good at different kinds of information management and making sure that we get the message out in as many different ways as possible, especially because lots of actual sale windows are very tight.
You bet.
So we want to be catching people.
And we're going to talk about the team in a minute, but I've got a few more questions about your services. So would there be, again, I'm just thinking of just hypothetical projects or ICOs that may want to contact you. Let's say I'm an ICO and I've got my white paper, okay? could you help me go over it and then help me with my social media? Or is BlockSparks more kind of the entire package? Like you come in and go, okay, if you want to hire me for just one piece of the pie, you can. Or if you want me to do content marketing, social media, white paper, and press releases, I can do that too.
We're completely flexible because
Okay.
what we've encountered in the space is such a huge variety. If it's just a bunch of developers and nothing between them and the outside world, we can put everything in place. But very often people have different degrees of resource in-house. And that resource might be deployed differently over the project life cycle. They might have actually a fantastic marketer, but he's completely tied up in writing the website at the moment, so we can take over the social or so on. So it really depends on what there is. Also, some channels are better served internally, like we never attempted to get too involved in the local CoinSwap Telegram group because all the developers are on there 24/7. I don't know when those guys sleep because they're also building this amazing exchange as well. But the questions they get there are things there'd be no point us trying to address. They're very sort of sharp, factual, often quite technical questions, and they've got it all, and they can just respond very quickly. So it often makes more sense for that to be done in-house, and including the sort of Reddit type forums as well. Whereas what we can shine is going in and building that community outside of that space, bringing in people via Facebook and Twitter, Instagram if it's a visual kind of brand, people who actually probably wouldn't know what an ICO is, but they do know what products they use, what services they need, what things they wish were different in the world.
Okay, so I don't know why I just thought of this. So BlockSparks is kind of like if you were going into a nice restaurant, okay, there's, like the bowl, the plate, the nice silverware. You could have it all with BlockSparks, or if someone just wants a spoon from you or a knife, you can do that too. You could custom make. Okay.
Or if you just want a spoon for your starter, for your soup, then come back later for your main course. We can help you once you've got a bit of funding in.
Okay, interesting. No, that's great. So let's talk about the team. Again, I've got part of your webpage in front of me. So tell us about Helen and Diana, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Helen and Diana are people that I've worked with before on different projects. And when it came to BlockSparks, I was writing more and more about cryptocurrency, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. Everyone talks about falling down the rabbit hole, and for me as a writer, I ended up learning all this stuff, but then people wanted other services to go with it. People wanted more items off the menu. Can you do our social media? Can you take over this? Can you get our articles into? And I thought, well, I don't really know how to do that, or I don't know how to do it as well as some people who specialize. I'm more at the 1,000-word length, whereas Diana is fantastic at telling a story in 200 characters or whatever Twitter now gives you. So I knew exactly who I wanted to work with. And actually both Diana and Helen were new to the blockchain and crypto space, but I knew that they would get it. And once I said to them, look, come and have a look at this because this is exciting and I've got clients who want this work here, I knew they knew their crafts, respectively, of social media and public relations. And I thought these people will be great to work with, and they'll also immediately understand what's needed and be able to apply their expertise to this new field with the same kind of enthusiasm that I can. So that's how we came together to
that's great.
produce BlockSparks.
That's great. So this may seem like a simple question, but for an old guy like me, so I did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and I said to the project manager, I said, I was on Twitter, and I said, some of the ICOs, their names I just can't pronounce, okay? Either because they start with a Q or, and I said, I'm not going to mention his name because this is about BlockSparks, but I said to him, your name seemed very inviting to me, so I clicked on the link, and the guy ended up being at the Consensus 2018, and I just said, it's crazy how just a name kind of drew me in, and I kind of felt the same way, to be perfectly honest with you, Maya, about BlockSparks. I'm like, I like that name. So again,
thank you. We brainstormed that one for ages.
I was just saying, it seems kind of maybe simple or even silly. How did you come up with the name? Or
Well, we brainstormed it. Our Slack group is still called Crypto Creative because that was my working title. I knew it was going to be something about crypto and messaging, and so that it still says that in the URL. But one of the first things we needed to do was look at our own branding. We decided to move away from the crypto to the blockchain elements, just to broaden things out a little bit, because I think, particularly as the regulation changes and there are more and more solutions that aren't using the word currency and crypto at all, they're really going after tokenizing using blockchain tech. So we thought, okay, it's going to have block in there. And then we looked at what do we want to do for the blockchain. We want to spark some conversation, some change, some interaction. And you know how it is, you're just putting words together and throwing them out and combining this and that. And suddenly we all kind of went, oh, at the same moment. And yeah, BlockSparks, that's the one.
So again, it seems kind of simple. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on all this, but when I saw your name, I'm like, BlockSparks, like that, I don't know, like, it just seemed, again, very inviting.
That proves we got it right, because it's just a few of us working in a vacuum, you know, that's really great validation. We couldn't get the .com though, somebody got there before us, but we got everything else that we wanted, I think.
So this goes without saying, but I'm going to put your contact information below in the description of the video, so you know, for people to get a hold of you. And we talked about this in the pre-interview, Maya, so I know what the answer is, but for our viewers, like, what was your process about getting interested in the cryptocurrency space? And I jokingly asked in the pre-interview, like, did you just wake up one morning, get out of bed and go, I want to learn about cryptocurrencies? Or like,
it does feel a bit like that. It wasn't quite like that, but it has been a roller coaster ride. I mean, my background was just in freelance writing in the technology and fintech space. I used to write a social media column for our local press, and I've always been interested in what's happening at the edge of things and where the kind of future of things. And I came across it was an investigative writing gig for one of the big scams of last year, one of the Ponzi schemes about crypto. And so I was looking at what had happened there and looking at some of the case studies that people had been burned. And I found myself more and more interested in the technology. And it was clear that it had been misused and that people had been very badly hurt by it. But why had all these people been interested in the first place? And what was it about this technology that got people so excited? And then I started to notice other gigs for writers coming up in this space, and worked on some white papers, and just got more and more fascinated by it. People talk about falling down a rabbit hole a lot, but I completely get that, because it does feel like everything you learn, you want to go off and learn a dozen new things about it. And you know, I've been writing for a long time. I've been in the workplace for a long time. I've always believed in continual professional development and staying on top of your craft and your space, but I've never had the kind of hunger to learn that I have currently with BlockSparks, of just spending, sometimes it feels like every waking moment. I do have a life a little bit sometimes outside of work, but I actually find that I want to be reading blogs and listening to podcasts about crypto and blockchain in my leisure time, such as it is. So that's how fascinated I am by it. I've recently completed the University of Nicosia online course in digital currencies, which was really interesting, because it's Andreas Antonopoulos, who is absolutely wonderful, the best storyteller in the space. He's really inspiring, so it was great to listen to his lectures. And that made me learn a little bit more about sort of the actual blockchain, and some of the technical stuff stretched me a bit out of my comfort zone. But it's important and helps me understand it and contextualize it a bit more when I'm talking about the exciting things people are doing with it. So it's good discipline to try and learn about everything. There's just so much going on, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pay you a compliment that normally kind of takes people back. I love doing these interviews, and the last 3 interviews I've done, and I'm going to say the same thing to you because it applies, not because I say it at every interview, but even like when you talk without being dramatic, I could just see kind of the fire in your eyes and the passion, and I see that, and the enthusiasm in your voice. I see that in so many people in the cryptocurrency space, and that's one of the things, among a million things, that draws me in more. I mean, everybody's most of the people that I've met are, humble, they're teachable, they always want to be a student and learn, and, oh, I didn't know this. Well, hey, learn this. I mean, it really is maybe not a family per se, but it's really a community of people
It is.
of
And
all
it's a really
ages.
diverse, interesting community as well. It's global, it's cross-cultural, it's cross-generational. It's just so fascinating. And well, obviously there are scammers and rip-off merchants in every space, but I found the generosity of people trying to help you. When you go in with a journalist hat on saying, I want to learn about this, can anyone tell me an example of that? Does anybody know anybody? And people just respond. People are so generous with their time and their experiences, because I think we all need greater adoption. We all need this revolution to happen. So there's even people who might appear to be in business, potentially a conflict of interest, they're actually, because they're all dealing with just that tiny fraction of early adopters at the moment, everybody's aware of this huge space out there that we all have to reach somehow. And so there's this huge collective objective in crossing that void and getting the word out. So there is a collaboration at every
that's
level.
good.
I haven't found this kind of business tension that you get particularly in tech, where people are very, very secretive and, we're sort of one step ahead of this company or that company, and so we won't talk about what we're doing. In crypto, people share, whether it's at conferences or on Medium or Twitter or everywhere else. People are just proud of what they're doing and interested in what other people are doing and happy to talk about it.
You bet. Well, one of the things, the reasons I like doing these interviews is that, people love to read a white paper, say for local coin swap, but it's like another thing to get to know the people, get to see them, kind of get their personalities. And I think that's what I wanted to do today, Maya, with you and BlockSparks. So maybe I always end all my interviews with you having the last word. So what would you like people to know, maybe, and you can answer this any way you want, Maya, what would you want people to know maybe about you or BlockSparks or your skill sets or the team or, again, just take however long you want, but what would you like people, when they get done with the interview, to go, oh, well, I didn't know about that about Maya or BlockSparks?
Oh, well, that's a lovely opportunity, because we're blowing the trumpets of other people that we work for, and it's really nice to get invited to talk about ourselves. I think, what do I want people to know about BlockSparks? We're here to tell your story if you're doing something interesting in this space or a peripheral space. We're interested in all sorts of things, technology and social media and the way the world is changing. But we're really fascinated by blockchain and the social impact that it's going to have, projects that are going to make a difference. So, if you need a story told or you just want to talk about the possibilities, we might be the people who can help you push out of your bubble of influence that you already have to the wider world out there, who really deserve to know what you're doing. So we'd love to help with that.
That's great. All right, everybody. Maya Middlemiss, you've got her, Managing Director of BlockSparks. I'm going to put all her information below. Maya, it's been an honor to interview you. Thank you for your time, and I will definitely have you back on. I promise.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maya.